Good day everyone. I'm Alex, moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar. How to conduct a HIPAA risk assessment and the surprising danger of not doing one. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Mark R. Bringelman. Mark holds bachelor's and master degree in philosophy from Emory University and a Juris Doctorate from the University of Kentucky. Mark is a frequent continuing education presenter including national organization around the country. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you. This is Mark Bringelman, and I appreciate the excellent introduction. This is our topic. Let's go back. How to conduct a HIPAA risk assessment and the surprising danger of not doing one. The surprising danger we will do a deep dive on in the end. So the HIPAA risk assessment will cover risk assessment under HIPAA laws, vulnerability, threat, and risk assessment analysis, scope of the risk assessment, identifying potential threats and vulnerabilities, and assessing security measures in place. We will include determining threat occurrence, likelihood, and impact, finalize documentation of the risk assessment, and talk about regular review and updates to risk assessment for new employees, new laws, and new technology. And we'll focus a little bit on the end, actually quite a bit, on the surprising danger of not doing a HIPAA risk assessment. I think it's important to have some disclaimers here so that we're on the same page as to what our mutual expectations are, the goals of the content of the program, and what this does and does not cover. So HIPAA risk assessments will help in identifying and implementing the most effective and appropriate administrative, physical, and technical safeguards to secure electronic protected health information. Protected health information is subject to HIPAA confidentiality for entities to evaluate risks and vulnerabilities in their environments. Your healthcare agency must conduct an accurate and thorough assessment of the potential risks. Elements of the risk assessment can include numerous methods of performing risk assessment. Healthcare organizations should assign risk levels for all threats, but a truly integrated risk analysis and the management process is performed as new technologies of business operations are planned, reducing the effort required to address risks identified after implementation. We can refer to a group that's called the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which helps organizations better understand the requirements of the HIPAA security rule, implement those requirements, and assess those implementations in their operational environment. The Office of Civil Rights is responsible as the agency under Health and Human Services for issuing periodic guidance on the provisions of the HIPAA security rule. Risk analysis is a requirement in the Code of Federal Regulations. The Standards Organization is a federal agency and has material in the public domain, including its guidelines. So with regard to vulnerability, threat, and risk analysis, know the fundamentals that all protected health information that is created. The risk analysis requirements involve the security management process standard that mandates organizations implement policies and procedures to prevent, detect, contain, and correct. The security rule indicates risk analysis is a necessary tool in reaching substantial compliance with many of the standards. It contains several implementation specifications. All of this citation to the federal regulations for designing appropriate personnel screening processes, how you train new employees. Vulnerability is defined as a flaw or weakness in system security procedures, design, or implementation, and internal controls that could be exercised, accidentally triggered, or intentionally exploited and result in a security breach or violation of the system security policies. Threat means the potential for a person or thing to exercise, accidentally trigger, or intentionally exploit a specific vulnerability. Examples can include natural threats, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, and landslides. Risk is the net mission impact considering the probability the particular threat will exercise accidentally or intentionally a particular vulnerability, and the resulting impact may adversely impact the organization. The elements of the risk analysis include numerous methods of performing risk analysis. The scope of the analysis. Let's start with scope. The scope of the analysis in the security rule encompasses and includes the potential risks and vulnerabilities to the confidentiality, available integrity of PHI. Data collection. An organization must identify where it's stored, received, maintained, or transmitted. You have to assess current security measures. Organizations should assess and document the security measures that the entity uses to safeguard protected health information. Determining the likelihood of the threat occurrence, you have to take into account the probability of the potential risk. Determine the potential impact of the threat occurrence. You have to determine the level of risk. Finalizing the documentation, the security rule requires the risk analysis be documented. You have to do periodic review and updates to the risk analysis. So a truly integrated risk analysis and management process is performed as new technology and business operations are planned, thus reducing the effort required to address risks identified after implementation. Identify and document potential threats and vulnerabilities. So conclusion on risk analysis is the first step in the organization, and this is the surprising danger of not doing a HIPAA or risk assessment. Let's wrap up. For individual healthcare practitioners, summary and tips for avoiding liability and risk. You are a healthcare facility. Know your HIPAA confidentiality or someone who does. Thank you all. I'm going to wrap up now.
Thank you, Mark. That does conclude the session for today. And thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day.